sorry, just so everybody's aware, if you're here right now early, I can't really respond to any, oops. Sorry. I can't respond to any message or comments because I can't see them. They disappear on this particular live, so I'm really sorry about that. But today I'm going to be quilting Joan's quilt. So this is a bed quilt and she wants it quilted, you know, with not too much density today. So I'm going to do that. I did wrestle a little bit with thread choices. So let's go take a look at it and you'll see what I mean. Turn you around. All right. And onto the machine. So what I've decided to do here today is use a gold thread. So I'm going to use this gold thread. So this is called Vegas Gold. It's Glide. I always use Glide thread. And you see how it looks on here? I'm not sure if you can see that. You'll see it when I start stitching. You can see I've basted already. But I think I like it. I like it quite a lot. But it did take me a minute to commit to it. And I have done some pre-marking on this quilt, so I know where I'm going. And I'm going to be doing some feathers and some ruler work today and some free motion circles. Can you see my line here? So I've marked this spine and I'm going to be just kind of be doing like a waving feather around this border. I'm going for, like I said, a lighter density, so I don't want to get too complicated here. And I'm just going to do a normal sort of bump back feather. I'm also trying to be cognizant about how far away I am from the edge. I want to keep my feathers a little bit further away from this edge so that when it's squared up or bound, I don't end up cutting off my feather. Notice how I'm just using this line as a guide right now. I'm just going to come back around and then I'm going to stitch this spine in and do the other side of the feather. That's how I do these types of feathers. Thanks so much to everyone for being here today. I kind of decided to do this on a fly, so if you're here, it's a mini miracle probably. So I'm going to switch it up here. I don't want to get too tight down here. And then as I get closer to the top of this feather, I am going to get closer to the edge to make it look like it's kind of veering off into the distance. I'm just going to turn on the light here for a quick second and see what I think about the thread. I think I like it. I think it adds a little bit extra to this border. It would have just disappeared so much if I'd matched the purple. So I'm really happy with my choice here. So I'm going to bring this back and just kind of attach the last of that spine so I don't have to go all the way back there. I was supposed to stitch Joan's quilt last week, but I ended up actually going up to Prince George, British Columbia, Canada, to teach some long arm quilting at the Willow Basket Quilt Shop. It was really awesome being up there. I was lucky enough to get some amazing spring weather. So I'm approaching the center, and you'll notice, like, as my spine, like when I was drawing it in, I actually did mark the centers and separated the border into chunks so that I could make my spine symmetrical throughout the quilt. It's actually one of the things I talked about in Prince George is, you know, how to measure and mark your borders for consistent results. There's a little bit of math involved. I really like talking about all the math that goes into like the geometric borders and stuff, because it took me a long time to figure out, honestly. So I kind of like to share about it. What's the name of that particular lecture? Quilting Borders in Math or something? Something like that. Oh, I like this feather. This is one of my favorites. I like all the modern feathers, you know, the ones that have got like, you know, leaves and flowers and like spines in them and things like that. But my honest to goodness favorite is this just classic basic feather. I don't know, I just think it looks good. Okay, so coming up to another corner here. Gotta get my stick in here, all right. I'm trying to keep these feathers away from the edge, but inevitably, like, just the nature of it, they're gonna get kind of close. That's okay. Come down now. As I'm doing this feather, I'm just watching my basting line over here. I use it kind of as a guide so that I don't hit the belly bar and make that ugly flat feather look. So just gonna sit there. There's the end there. So, can I get one more in here? Yeah. There we go. Backtracking that spine definitely takes a little bit of practice. But I try not to get too carried away with, you know, making everything too perfect. We're talking about, you know, custom quilting here, and nothing's going to be perfect. Okay. All right, so there's that feather. Next, I'm going to stitch out, I'm going to change thread colors, and I'm going to stitch this mini border here, this stopper border. So I'm just going to bring my thread down, snip it, grab my other color, which is also Glide. This is Latte. And I'm going to tie it on to the tail of the gold. All right. And then I'm going to pull here, not at the needle. I always pull up here because I don't want to bend or distort my needle at all. I'm going to pull it through until I can see my knot. There it is. Then I'm going to angle it and pull it right through the eye of the needle. Snip it off and we're done. That's why I don't really worry too much about changing thread colors. I just give her. I just don't find it to be that big a deal. So I'm going to start this little stopper border by stitching in the ditch. But I am also going to turn the lights on so I can see that ditch. This is my favorite ditching ruler. It's by Silly Quilt Company. The reason I like this ruler so much is it has beveled edges. And since I do use a straight edge ruler most of the time when I'm quilting, or at least on every single quilt, it's just nicer to hold in the hand. It doesn't have a ton of markings on it, but that's okay. My machine has been acting up a little bit lately. Going from right to left, I think I've got to check my timing. It's been a little while since I had this guy serviced. I'm working on a Handi Quilter Avante, by the way. In case anybody wanted to know. It is a bit of an older machine and quite a bit of a smaller machine. But it works for my purposes. Oh, see, there it is. See, it just kind of shredded this one piece of it. That's okay. No big deal. Cut that. Oh, it didn't get quite a clean cut. I know lots of people who change their needle for every quilt. I don't do that. I change my needle when I feel like it needs to be changed, which is it's pretty often, but I don't see a reason to throw away a perfectly good needle. And maybe it's not perfectly good, but I don't throw away a needle after one project. So then I did do some stay stitches and I'm going to snip this off. There we go. Good as new. All right. Oh, man. I knew that was going to happen. I felt it happening. Yep, I'm going to have to get a service. I actually have a thread issue checklist that, like when I first got started working on this machine or any of these machines, when the thread would break like so often, I would lose my mind. So I actually made a thread issue checklist of my own. So I kind of knew like what I needed to look at and check to see. And then I wouldn't get lost and be trying like the same things 14 times. And that really helped. You can find that on my website if you're looking for it. If you want to take a look, it just helps to keep what little sanity you have left as soon as your thread starts breaking. So I'm just going to go all the way down to here. All right, so my plan for this border is, again, just to keep it fairly simple. Because, again, we're not going all out super major custom here. So I am just going to do, I think, circles in this border because everybody loves circles. But what I'm going to do first is I'm going to take my blue marking pen. This is a water soluble pen. And I'm just going to draw in some like registration circles just to help me. Good morning, everybody. Hello. All right, so here we go. I drove right past somebody when I was coming back down from Prince George. Maybe. All right. So this is a pretty large border. If you're pretty new to circles, I wouldn't suggest doing them this big at first. It's easier to draw small circles than bigger circles. So I'm coming up to my registration circle, and it just helps me kind of to gauge what size I need this to be in order to make it fit. Here we go. Nailed it. I'm kind of a little concerned about the design I've got planned for the middle of this quilt, because I am going to be needing to go from left to right quite often. So we'll see. If my thread starts breaking too much because of my service issues, then I'll have to cut the live short. But I forgot to send out an email today, so there's not very many people here today. How many people are here? 17. Hello, everybody. But if anybody's interested in having me at their guild or local quilt shop, I do love to present live. I got a giant projector that I bring with me, and I travel in a camper van. At least I have a camper van to travel in. I did talk to the folks at Willow Basket Quilt Shop, and I'm going to go back next year for sure. So if you're up there and you missed me, I'll be up there again next year. And maybe even making like a longer jaunt. Like maybe I could head up to Dawson Creek or Grand Prairie or something. I'm also going to be going to, I think I'm going to be going to Oregon next year as well. That's in the books, but I'm not supposed to talk about it too much right yet. When you're doing these types of circles, I like to make sure that I'm staying a little bit looser. I find I have a tendency to like really grip really hard onto my bar sometimes, or onto my handle sometimes. So I'm just going to go and draw some more of these circles. You know, because I'm just working so hard to try and stay so consistent. And another place I noticed some tension can build is in your teeth. Start clenching your teeth a little bit. It's just something to watch for. See, like I'm not hitting these perfectly, and that's okay. I'm just literally using them to help. Nothing's supposed to be perfect. It's just supposed to help. And it does. So similar as before, oh, I gotta come down a little bit more. So as before, I was using this line to kind of gauge how far I have to go. What kind of marker am I using? I am using a curing marker, but I also use the Adger marker. My opinion on markers is I like the larger tip, because you can see like I can just draw a nice big mark really easily. I do have the finer markers, but I just find the lines are too fine. I don't have the greatest eyesight, and I like to have a nice, thick, big mark so I don't get lost. So before, when I was coming around this corner with this feather, I was using kind of my basting line to make sure I didn't hit my belly bar with my ruler plate, which is right here. And similarly, I try not to cut this thread so that I don't go too far when I'm coming around with circles too. Just a handy little tip. And there we go. Come all the way around. Okay. So I'm going to, again, change color threads, because that's kind of my jam. I love changing color threads. I have got a big collection of thread. I kind of got like really into buying thread. So I'm going to change to this color. This is Tea Berry, also by Glide. I like to stay with, like, Glide's my favorite thread at the moment. And I just stay with the same weight the whole way through a quilt if I can, if it's possible. That way I don't have to mess with the tension at all, you know? Okay, so I cut my thread, mount my new cone. I'm going to just tie this on. It's just a simple bowl knot, you know, nothing too crazy. Okay, and then when I get here, angle it and pull it through. Perfect. Snip. So I have to stitch this stitch in underneath before I get too ahead of myself here. Just angle this a bit better. So I'm going to go from left to right this time so that I don't break thread, because I know that my machine's acting up. Ooh, wobble. I live quite a ways away from a service place, and my personal endeavors to fix my machines has not gone particularly well in the past. So I'm gonna call my dude and set that up later on today, I think. It's a bit of a drive over the mountain, and I try not to do it in the wintertime. But it's been actually really nice here. I don't know, we're having a pretty reasonable spring. So everything should be pretty fine. So I am going to use the same thread color throughout the entire body of the quilt. Again, we're not going for super ultra major custom. We're just going for, you know, some simpler custom. Bed quilt custom. All right, perfect. Actually, I think I'm going to roll up a little bit as well so I can get up there. So I can get up there. So I can maybe do 2 rows of these squares. Again, I'm working on a pretty small machine. I'm working on a Handi Quilter Avante. So I've only got about 15 inches of workable space on my machine when I've got my my ruler plate on, which really isn't that much. So I'm just gonna go up a little bit here. There we go. I'm gonna take a minute, smooth down my quilt, give my batting a little tug. Sorry, I'm just working by myself in the studio. I don't have a cohort to help me out with any film and stuff, so I'll just have to entertain you with the melody, my melodious voice. Just kidding. It's not very melodious. I can't sing worth a dang. All right, so I haven't basted here yet, so I'm not going to put my side clamp on just this second. I like to baste first, then side clamp afterwards, but I do want to finish this line, so I'm going to be a rebel and do it. There, sweet. Such an awkward sort of part of the quilt, getting through like the top border and stuff. It takes a little bit of finagling. Okay, so now I'm going to baste this edge. I do float my quilts, as some of you have clearly deduced. And I also always use a ruler to baste my quilts down the edges. The day I went through my finger, it changed the way I quilted. That was a bad day. I was here by myself too. Luckily, I mean, I have like, what are those called? Reflexes of a mongoose? Yeah, that's it. I got mongoose reflexes. I pulled my finger out from under that needle. It broke off inside. Well, maybe I broke it. I don't know. But anyways, long story short, I didn't bleed on the quilt, which is really good. So I'm going to put my side clamp back on. I don't always use these side clamps, but I've got a nice backing here with a reasonable edge. And then I'm going to put my broken piece of trim here. So that allows my ruler plate to run freely underneath. See? See my ruler plate? Handy dandy little trick that is. Okay, can I reach here? Not quite. That's okay. There we go. Now we can. And I can still reach 2 rows of quilting. So this, when I baste this side of the quilt, it is definitely a little trickier to do with a ruler. And if you do give this ruler technique a try, to keep your fingers away from your needle, make sure that you are solidly on your ruler plate. You don't want to be too far forward because it's going to cause you to flip this ruler up and then it'll go under your needle. Now your ruler down and you got to go visit the shop. There we go. So just take care if you do decide to give that a try here on the left-hand side of the quilt, if you're right-handed. I mean, if you're left-handed, you probably will have the difficulty on the opposite side. That's a guess. I'm not entirely certain. If there's any lefties in the building, maybe you could chime in. I don't know. I would be interested to hear a little bit more from some left-handed quilters because I think they kind of get the shaft a little bit. All right. So the design I've got planned for inside here is, it's not complicated, but it's going to take some figuring to get a thread path sorted out. So what I've done is I've marked the center of all these blocks, and I'm going to be doing an 8-point star in half of those blocks. This is a square quilt. And then the other half of the blocks, I'm going to be doing an arch with a feather. But because I can only work through part of this quilt, like these 2 rows, it's going to be interesting because the feather is actually going to go around because it's diagonal. So it's going to go from this pinkish fabric to this pinkish fabric, you know, and then the square or the stars are going to go from these purples that are all running on diagonals. What's that called? A trip around the world style quilt. So let's see if I can figure this out. I did kind of doodle it out before I got started here today, so I kind of have an idea how it's going to work. This is the Quilted Pineapple 20. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to arch up to this other corner. So this is, if you just got here and you're going to try and figure this out, it's not going to make much sense for a couple minutes, okay? Just bear with me because I think I have a plan. It might all go tits up. I don't really know. See, but what I need to do is I have to end up back in this corner. That's the idea, so I can travel across the quilt. All right, so see, I'm going to hit this corner. And then I'm going to arch back up and repeat. This is kind of just laying the foundations for the feathers that are going to travel along this arch here. If everything goes to plan. Oh boy. I don't normally spend a ton of time working on a game plan. Oh, I just realized I actually have to arch down from here because I'm traveling around. So that's it for there. Okay. I don't spend a ton of time trying to figure out thread path always, because usually I find the perfect thread path when I hit the end of a quilt, which is extremely frustrating, but it just tends to be true. I've been custom quilting for, it's got to be going on like 10-ish years. And it just seems to hold true. Okay, so then, now I'm going to arch down this way. All right, we're getting there. I'm going to complete this star. You see these marks in the center? This is a really simple design, but I wanted something pretty simple because I knew that the layout of the design was really what was the most complicated part. So just from going point to point all the way around here, I've created this star. Now, let's talk about how I'm going to do this. What I need to do is I'm going to feather like this way up to here, and then I'm going to come back down along the spine on the inside, and then I'll feather back up, and that'll land me back up here. And then hopefully, if the stars align, it'll all come together on the other side. Or I'll be able to mirror it somehow. Okay, that's my hope. Let's just see what happens. Okay, now I've got to mirror this. I kind of wanted to make it, it's fine. I was going to make it different, but like I wanted it to just come off one point, but I don't think I can do that. Not with the same ruler. So I'll just do, a 1/4 inch. I mean, it's not going to be perfect because it's not going to line up necessarily with this one, but I think I'm okay with that. I think it'll be fine. Maybe I'll just do that. You're watching it happen. This is how design happens sometimes. I have a plan, but don't always know how I'm going to execute it. And what do we think? I think I like that. I think that's going to work out fine. I don't think I should get too carried away with that. I think that's good. Let's go. See, now, because I ended in the right spot when I was coming across, I'm able to complete this star. Corner to center, corner to center, corner to center. And then the next feather. Brilliant. Well, at least I thought it was brilliant when I first thought of it. But I'm kind of concerned about the thread buildup that I'm creating. I don't love that. Insofar as, you know, a bed quilt goes, but I feel like I'm a little bit committed now because I really like it. I'll post pictures of this on the communities tab of my Facebook page when I'm done, because I probably won't be able to finish this here today. Well, I'll finish it today, but I won't be able to finish it live, so that you can get the whole effect, because ultimately what I'm creating is a pretty large secondary design. With the feathers arching this way on this side, they're going to arch the other way on the other side of the quilt, which I think is going to be a really neat effect. Okay, so where do I go from here? I think I go over here. There we go. Like when this particular design, oh, I'm sorry, this is shifted. I'm sorry. Here we go. Okay, so this particular design, you see, like I went down and up. So I want to go to the center mark and then to the corner, and then a center mark, corner, and you just kind of follow that sort of a pattern, and you don't get super lost. Just always think center, corner, center, corner. Yahoo! Okay, so now I'm gonna hope for the best here, that I can make this feather. You know what, maybe, so originally I was gonna have this feather arching up, but what if I just have them all traveling in the same direction? It'll still kind of create that design that I was talking about, and I think it'll be easier. Because, yeah, I just have to do the outside ones first. Because if I do the outside ones first, then, yeah. Am I making sense? So because over here, I did this one first, I have to do this one first, because then I stitch that 1/4 inch on the inside. Because if I stitch it on the outside, I'm reducing the size of this space. So I want to make sure that I keep my spacing the same as this one to this one. That's where I'm headed. I always try and think about symmetry when I'm doing quilting. I mean, we're working in geometry. We just are. That's how we work. So I like to think about that when I'm quilting as well. Unless you're one of those improv quilters. Boy, oh boy. Or an art quilter. I guess they don't do all symmetry either, do they? I'm not really like that. I don't know, my brain kind of works more like organized, like pretty ultra organized sometimes. with my quilting and my design anyways, not with my life. My defense, I have 2 teenage daughters. Although they're not young teenagers anymore. They're 18 and 19. One of them is taking off for Peru here in 2 weeks. She's going to go travel Peru all by herself. Up into the mountains to work on a farm. And then the other one is leaving for college. So I'm not going to have anybody here anymore. Just me, my dogs. Oh, and I guess the husband. I do have one of those too. I'm actually looking forward to it a little bit. I know I shouldn't say that, but I am a little. Okay, over. I like this side better because I can use the ruler to create that 1/4 inch line. I could have held my ruler to create a perfect 1/4 inch on the other side, but it's just so awkward, especially with the camera sitting up on my machine. Okay. These bump back feathers also take quite a little bit of practice to follow the lines back, and don't despair too much though. Like you can see mine, they probably look pretty perfect on the camera, but they're not perfect. They're not perfect. I keep adjusting this. All right. Okay, this fabric is just kind of hard to see my lines on. Just pay attention here. Here we go. Just center to corner, center to corner. Center to corner, and then to the last corner. Excellent. Snip this guy off. Ooh, just putting my stick up. And back down. Okay. Yay, that's very exciting. So this might be a little tricky. So I need this arch to go back down this way to start the next row. Okay, so, and then we'll just start up. Yay, all right. I think this is going to look quite awesome when it's done. So you see what I was talking about? So I'm going to be putting this star also in this purple, and then this feather also in here. So it's going to look like these feathers are kind of like wrapping around the quilt, kind of like the border feather is as well. At least that was the intended design. But I have to be down here in this corner in order to do the next arch. So I can carry on with this star. I had thought to maybe do this star with a curved ruler, but ultimately decided against it. I decided I wanted to have the contrast between the feathers and the straight lines, because that's usually what I really like to do. I like to have that bit of a contrast in the designs. Okay, I think this actually is going to be pretty good. Oh, I'm happy. I'm happy with this. I hope Joan's happy with it. As she would when I was doing our consult over it. So Joan is a local, which isn't always the case for me, but she is a local, and so we had a really good little powwow session over it to kind of figure out what she wanted to do. Oh, okay, and then here. So I think I'm going to do this one a little bit different. The comments, I've got, just a heads up, I can't really answer too many comments. They disappear too fast on my screen, but I'm running it on my computer, so hopefully I'm going to be able to go back and answer some questions later, maybe in my post about this, which is going to be on the communities page. Now, what happens is we're coming to the center of this quilt. This block right here is the center, where there will be a star here. And then I'm actually going to do some arches right here to line the star. So the arch is going to go up and down like a center of the quilt. So this feather isn't going to go all the way up to here. This feather actually has to go across here. So in order to do that, I'm going to use this round ruler, because this was the best one I could find in my studio. So I'm going to go around so that this feather is going to land from here to here instead of corner to corner. Does that make sense? I hope that makes sense. Okay. I don't know. I'm not entirely sure it even makes sense to me, so don't get too hung up on it. It's kind of hard working a mandala design going from side to side or back and forth. Okay, and then I have to end up here today, or for this next one. I'm just paying a lot of attention. Not too bad of a design for a pretty simple pieced quilt, eh? I think it's kind of cool anyhow. Right. And another star. So I'm not using any special batting or anything today. Just this, I think it's just a 80-20. Looks like a bleached 80-20. But you can really see the relief because I've got great, well-designed lighting in my studio. That being said, it's a window. I just got a window over on the right-hand side, and then all the lights are off. So that's what's really making the relief so obvious in the video and all my videos. Yeah, that's cool. Cool. All right, so if I remember correctly, I have to do the feather on the outside here. I can't believe it's already the center of that quilt already. That happened pretty quick, actually, today. I think it's all the free motion work. Free motion quilting always goes so much faster for me than ruler quilting. Probably for everybody. I'm also not doing like a pile of, oopsie, I shouldn't have done that. But I'm not doing a pile of stitch in the ditch on this quilt either. Just around the outsides there. And I'm not doing it because I want it to be flow more organically from the back. I'll post pictures of the back too. Again, I don't worry about how perfect my feathers are. They always look good from a slight distance away. Even you guys aren't even as close as I am, so I don't get too hung up on it anymore. I used to, though. I used to get a little hung up on it. So it's been a little while since I've been in the studio, as I've been working on my summer series of videos. I try to plan out more videos in the summertime, just like short videos, because everybody's got stuff to do. I mean, I guess unless you're in like Australia, then it's actually winter. But I suppose your winter's not as bad as ours anyways. It can't possibly keep people inside as much as winters does here. I want to go to Australia. I think Australia has their big quilt show just happened not very long ago. I'm going to send them an email and see if I can pitch myself. I'll get there eventually, I know so. I got to go on a cruise with Susan Smith and Beth Ann Namish this January, and it was so fun. I had like the time of my life just talking about quilting nonstop. I swear, I know like people sometimes don't believe me, but I honestly could do it forever. I could talk about quilting for like 6, 8, 10 hours at a time. I'm not sure if that's like obsessive or not, but it's not drugs, so that's okay. Okay, so here we are. Now I'm at this spot. How should I do this? I don't have a lot of room. It's kind of tough to see, but this is the line right here. So it's pretty shallow, and it's kind of like the best line I could get without doing something pointy. But if I put a quarter inch echo below it, it's gonna look like I'm just gonna end up with 0 here. Maybe that's okay. Maybe that'll be okay. But it's a long ways to stretch this feather too. Oh well, I'm gonna give it a go. You know, this was the plan, and lots of times I need to just not question my own plans too much. It might look a little weird, but it might look awesome. Big stretch. Okay. It's a kind of a busy fabric to see, but I think I like it. Okay. I'm gonna roll with it. And I am gonna keep it the same. So this is a 6-inch round circle. I don't have a 6-inch sort of curved one. So I'm going to use this 8-inch one to do the 1/2-inch echo. And I'm just going to curve the ruler along the line. There. Perfect. We're close to perfect. Now, I wonder if, no, you know what? I'm just going to carry on. When I teach about planning the quilting, one of the things I like to preach about is not to question the plan. I mean, there's a reason why I sit and plan my quilts out. It's so I don't stand here in front of my machine questioning the plan the whole time. I hate standing here, you know, wasting daylight when I could be stitching. So that's another reason why I really like to plan out my quilts. I'm just going to trust myself and know that it was a good plan. And that's not to say it always is, but the majority of the time, I did it for a reason. Okay, I now have 1, 2, 3, 4 rulers sitting on my quilt. That's pretty normal for me. Oh, feather first. What am I doing? Now I'll do my echo. I hope this isn't too boring. I know it's not exciting. Lots of flourish quilting. But it's honest. All right. All right, when I get to the end here, let's see. Oh, feather first. So I'm trying to come up with a goal for myself as to when I can buy the next set of quilted pineapple rulers. You know, I feel like I need to like complete something in order to purchase them, because I only have the original set, which is awesome. I'm so thankful that I have them. I really like these quilted pineapple rulers. They have changed the way that I quilt completely. So I've got the original set of 6 of these. But there's 2 more sets out there. And I can see where they would be very useful for me as a predominantly custom quilter. But I suppose as a teacher, having too many rulers in my repertoire maybe isn't awesome. Oh well. Okay, I'm going to move these rulers off and let's take a look at how everything looks. All right, here we go. Can you kind of seeing the vision now? So that's the center is right here, center of the quilt. And so the feathers are going to travel around it. Some of it's more obvious than others, but yeah, there's what the circles look like. I've kind of rolled up the border a bit. Okay. Put you back down here, and time to carry on. So I've been live for about an hour now. Should I keep going or should we call her a day? Because this is probably going to get pretty slow and repetitive. I'm not going to lie. I am watching the comments for a quick sec here. If anybody cares to let me know if I should keep going. Okay, so I'm just going to use my machine to help me roll this up to the next spot here. Oh, I guess maybe you might want to see the center, eh? So I'm going to get to the center right here. Yep. What I'll do is I'll skip the borders for now, just maybe work the center. Take my time, make sure this is all nice and smooth and straight. Lots of times I'll use a 0 center tape, but this quilt is quite small. So I'm not going to get too carried away. And here, I'll show you. See, everything's looking pretty smooth and square. And I mean, it's not complicated piecing. And Joan is a fabulous piecer. So I don't know if you noticed, but these points are all basically perfect. So the quilt is nice and mostly square, other than just like, you know, regular stretch of fabric and such. When I baste, I also do like to baste down the sides, going going up from the bottom to the top. It just helps with just generally being square, as opposed to, you know, coming down and pulling the fabric out or anything like that. This kind of just keeps the fabric out there where it belongs. There. My thread was wrapped around my knob there. Okay. Didn't happen inside the quilt. So I am going to skip the borders for now. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to pin them and come back to them later on when the quilt's finished. I'm not going to turn the quilt at all, but I am using like a different color thread. In this border, I'm using a gold thread, and then I'm using cream thread, and then a purple thread in the main body. So I'm just going to pin baste these. There isn't an awful lot of bulk, and the quilt, again, isn't huge. So pin basting, in my opinion, is a nice way to go. Then I can switch to the gold thread and go all the way down this one side, across the bottom and back up to connect, and do the same with the pebbles. Throw this on. It's funny how much thought and planning can go into quilting. And you know what? On the flip side, you know, there's a whole bunch of quilters out there that are, you know, just love to play and move forward and just do what feels right. I mean, I super admire those people. And who am I thinking of? Like maybe Angela Walters is like that. You know, she's wonderful and whimsical and just loves to just let the feelings guide the quilting. And I really do admire that about her. So I am also going to stitch this in the ditch right here, right now, because I've got the right thread color in. This one I'm ditching with the cream thread. And that is because of the way that the quilt was constructed. I did mention that this was my favorite ruler. There is a code in the description if you wanted 10% off this ruler or any of the Silly Moon Quilt Company rulers. She's got a pile of them. I actually have a package to open. I haven't opened yet. Kelly's also in British Columbia, Canada, so we're buds. And I do love her rulers as well. They're more comfortable in your hand because they've got beveled edges. Okay, so I'm going to come to the other side and baste and ditch this. But a ditch ruler is really great for keeping your fingers away from this needle. And the thing about most ditch rulers, and almost all ditch rulers, like don't run out and buy a new ditch ruler if you already have one. They have the stitch in the ditch right here, which is the lower sort of feet here. And so that'll put you right in the ditch. And then they also have this side, which is a little deeper. It's 1/2 inch deep. So this would stitch beside the ditch if these little feet were sitting on your seam line. So I like to use the deeper side when I'm doing this. And I kind of smooth my fabric into its position and stitch my edges down. And I'm not sure if I invented that or not, but I do it all the time because I stitched through my finger once. I am not doing that again, at least not in the same decade. All right, got my snapper on and then my little broken stick. Okay. So I was up in Prince George, British Columbia this weekend, teaching at Willow Basket Quilt Shop. That is a nice little shop, I'll tell you. Such nice people. I was just so thrilled to be there. And I was just doing some, oh, okay, here. Something just happened. I don't know if you can see, but look, my thread was wrapped around this knob. That happens sometimes to me. I don't know if it's the way I do it, but usually it creates quite a thread nest on the back. But I caught it pretty early, so it's not too bad. I was able just to tug those threads out of there. But something to watch for, like if you're getting like really bad thread nests in a long row of stitching, check, because sometimes that thread can just wrap around this little screw sometimes. Now I'm not sure if that's just with Handi quilter machines or if that's true with all machines, but it's definitely something that I've dealt with quite a bit in the past. Might be just the way that I maneuver my thread too. I'm not entirely certain. All right, let's try that again. All right, there we go. So I'm going to, I wonder, do you think I could do 2 rows at once? No. I think that's crazy. It might not be. It might not be crazy. It's probably crazy. Should I try? Okay, so I'm just going to double check. Yes, I am supposed to do a feather in this one. Always trying to pay attention. So this looks like, just in case anybody cares too, by the way, this is a 5.5 inch finished square, and I'm using a 20 quilted pineapple is the ruler I'm using on that to create this arc. And this is the biggest ruler I had in order to create this arc. So that's that. I'm going to try and do both rows. I think it's crazy, but we'll see what happens. Another nice thing about using a ditch ruler, especially on like this size of a quilt, is I'm using these little knobs to help me with my spacing. So I can kind of line it up with my little tick mark here that I've used for this particular design. And that way, like for somebody who's maybe beginning and can't visualize the spacing that they need to have, like being 1/4 inch away from their mark, that can be helpful. So you, oh, you can't see, never mind, sorry. But I am using it to line this up a little bit. There, you can see it there. See how the edge of this little bump out is lined up with this tick mark. So that causes me to land exactly on that tick mark. That's what I was speaking of. Or at least really darn near it. Okay. Curved rulers are a little trickier to judge. And I think it's just the nature of them. They just are trickier. Just to see and understand. And like they're all different degrees. Like they're all different angles. So, okay, I need to be there. Okay, so remember how we used that 6-inch circle to complete this one? Well, this one I am still going to use this guy because I know that I need to, I'm trying to connect sort of visually this feather with this feather. So I am going to use this guy to arch up to here. But then I think I'm going to be in a bit of a tricky situation. Yeah, I am in a bit of a tricky situation because this is coming into the center. This darker purple is the center of this quilt here. And my plan is to do a star in this guy. But then in this area, I was going to do some arches, like to outline the star a little bit, just to add more of like that mandala sort of shape to the overall of this quilt. So I think what I have to do is just come back and fill in these pieces and do these 5 center blocks separately from the background design. So that's what I'm going to do now. And that's not like just a plan that I had. I'm coming up with this on the fly. Like, I knew I was going to do the arches, but I wasn't quite sure how this was going to look. Okay, then I go back and come back. Okay. Line this up. That was a bit big over here, but that's not going to be noticeable. This is one of the busier fabrics. I'm not going to get too bent out of shape out of one misformed line. See what I was talking about though? It is slightly larger. Okay. And then so this one is going to be one of these. If I do that now, I wonder what'll happen. I don't have a 6-inch quilted pineapple or other arch, so I just use this 8-inch one and just kind of tilt it to help me create that line. But I do believe I may have boogered myself. Yeah, I did. It's okay. Yeah, I got too ahead of myself. That's okay. Again, this is one of the busier fabrics. I'm just not going to get too bent out of shape about breaking a thread. Custom quilting, I think I like it so much too because of the problem solving aspect of the whole thing. Like I quite enjoy problem solving and trying to like, oh darn, what was I thinking? And maybe I enjoy it now. Okay, let's be honest, I didn't enjoy it at first. I enjoy it now because I've learned that basically anything that you quilt can be unquilted. You know, like I could rip this out. Like, or I could have broken thread and that would have taken me what? Like maybe 10 seconds longer, you know? But I've kind of learned to not sweat the small stuff too much, you know? It's not rocket science or brain surgery. You know, it's quilting, it's art. And especially when, or not when, but because I work free motion, or like at least uncomputerized, I'm not computerized here, you know, like it's not going to be perfect. it's just not possible. Realizing that and just letting that go has been really freeing, and then allows me to enjoy the whole process of having to pick things out. And I think I'm gonna have to pick something out. Oh, wait till you see it. This is funny. I did not account. So when I originally came up with the plan for this quilt, I had come up with it, and then I had to go to Prince George to teach. I already talked about that earlier. And I thought this quilt was square when but I left, right? So I wasn't paying attention, but I just realized this quilt isn't square. Like, look, so I've got this arching feather, and then I was going to arch this feather just like this feather, because that's the way it's supposed to be, because it's square. It's not square. This is the end, and look, it's the same fabric here. So this one should be one of these more shallow ones that I just did in this green guy. So I actually have to pick this line out and put in a different one. That is so minor. That's not even a big deal. But before I do that, I'm just gonna go and quilt out this star, because I can do that. Yeah, maybe I wonder if I knew that before I left. Maybe I didn't. That's okay, and that's literally what I was just talking about. Like, it's fine. Like, I'll just pick it out. It's only going to take a couple minutes. It's not the end of the world. I've made bigger mistakes. If you want to watch me remove all of the quilting from an entire quilt, there's a video of that. It's on my YouTube channel. I think the title says "How I Almost Ruined a Quilt," or "How I Ruined I can't remember what it says. It says something along those lines. And it was a pantograph quilt that I did, and I ran out of backing, and it was pretty bad. So I'm just finding my seam ripper. This is my favorite seam ripper. It's this Seam Fix seam ripper. Now, I do know this is just something, you don't have to know this, especially if you're going to pick something out, but it's something to think about if you are going to pick out maybe something that's more than just a single line. And that is the direction that you were traveling. So I knew that I was traveling. Excuse me, I got a quick frog. Ribbit. Rip it. That's funny. Anyhow, so to pay attention to which direction you were stitching when you're going to unpick. So I was stitching from here up to here. So when I unpick, because I know, is I'm going to pick backwards. If you can remember which direction you were traveling, it's easier to pick out backwards. And I'm leaving a single stitch there because I'm going to backtrack on top of that stitch so it doesn't unravel any of these other ones up here. It's just another little thing to think about. And I'm just going to pull up a couple of these top threads first. And then luckily enough, I'm using a different thread color underneath. So I can see that thread color. It's a bit of a teal. So I'm just going to get underneath it and I'm going to cut it. And I'm going to just gently tug here. And a whole bunch of those stitches came out. And then I can see my bobbin thread here again. So I'm just going to cut it. And just a little bit of pull. It's not very much. Cut and pull. Cut. Tension. Now, as you can see, I still have tension on this thread here as I'm cutting too. You know, and that just somehow makes them pop right off. And then I'm just going to cut that top. Now, one of the reasons I like this particular thread or this thing is because then I can use this little nubbin top and just give a little rub, and that removes my threads. And if I rub a little bit harder, add a little bit of water, again, look back at that video. If you have to pull out lots of threads, I show you how to remove the little pinhole marks. There's not very many clearly on this because it was a single line. I'll just give that a little tiny rub. These look like batik fabrics, but I don't think they are. They don't really feel like it. Or if they are, they've been washed a couple times. All right, so let's go back to where we were. I'm going to put my first stitch down, right kind of where I broke that thread, and give a couple stitches. All right, now I'll put in this. I'm really happy I saw that. You know, I could very much potentially have just carried on and just do my whole way. I just realized, oh yeah, it has to go underneath. Okay. Yeah, like this. Now, see, that wasn't a perfect line, but again, I'm not going to get too carried away about it. Let's give this a quick cut. Oh, excuse me. And keep going. Again, I could have broken thread right there. It would have taken not very long, but I'm pretty good at backtracking, so I decided just to backtrack it. This is definitely an oddly shaped feather. I kind of like it. I don't know. I think that's one of the reasons why I love feathers so much. You can just fit them into this weird shape. Like, they really shouldn't fit there, but they do. They do fit there. You can stretch them to be any which way you'd like, and that's a pretty good design. Okay. So I'm going to break thread again. We have to go to the other side and then to the middle. But that's looking, I'm really happy I saw that. Okay. Let's move over here. Now, I wonder. Again, I'm just kind of making this thread path up. That's why I don't get too hung up on it, guys. Thread path is like a bit of a unicorn. Sometimes it happens. Sometimes it does, I guess. But not very often do I find a really good thread path. Let's see. Now this one's going to have to be that roundy one again. See, the reason why I'm not getting hung up with thread path, like, yeah, sure, should I have like maybe looked at this a little longer before just going into this particular feather here? Yeah, I probably should have. But you know, I can spend just as long trying to figure out a thread path than I can just getting some stitching in. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, I could spend like 5 minutes and figure out the perfect thread path, but is that actually faster? No, it's not faster. It's also backwards. All right, maybe I should have looked at it. Did you see what I did? I was putting the feather this way, but it was supposed to go the other way. It's okay. This is supposed to be a mirror image. This is definitely a little bit more difficult than the last one to pick out because I was starting and stopping and changing directions. that is definitely something to think about if you're going to pick something out. If it's going to be a lot of points, see, because I stop with a feather and change direction, it can be a little tricky to pick out. Clearly not impossible, but a little tricky. And see, when I get to a point and I'm not quite sure where that thread is or when it's going to come up, I kind of just like move it back and forth and around a little so I can see it. And I didn't quite get it. That's okay. Again, this isn't rocket science either. There we go. Okay. Everything's fine. Everything will be fine. Okay. All right. Think again. Go into here. I forgot that my feathers are traveling like around the quilt this way. That's why I kind of just got a little rammy there, didn't I? And then I'll just travel back along here. And put in this stuff. Now we're going the right way. Okay, we're cooking with gas now. Woohoo! All right. Woohoo! We're back in business. Awesome. Awesome, awesome. Everything can be fixed. Now, in order to do this one, I gotta end here. I'm kind of giving up the ghost of being like perfect with a thread path, so that's no biggie. I'll just stitch till I can't stitch no more. So remember, corner, center, corner, center, corner, center. That'll make your 8-pointed star. And to mark an 8-pointed star, all you need to do is find the middle of these 4 sides. So that's what I've marked there. I go through a pile of marking stuff in my online course. Shameless plug, I know. But I gotta do it, guys. Gotta do it. But yes, I do talk a ton about marking out 20 different unique blocks and 8 different style borders with 100 different ideas in them. Okay. Oh, you know what? I can do this star because these stars always end at a point, or like back where they began. So I can stitch this star in 2 before I get too carried away with those feathers. They're just a little more difficult to put in. There we go. Yeah. I know I talked about it a little earlier, but I still do like the contrast between the straight lines and the feathers. Again, I was originally going to do these with a curved ruler and do some like curved 8-pointed stars, but then I realized that I was just kind of getting a little bit too floofy, I guess. I needed to tone it down with just a little bit of straight lines. In my opinion, that was the right choice. Okay, so I'm traveling this way, so I can actually feather this way across the top. Right. Well, I hope Joan likes this quilt. She's waited long enough for it. I'm not gonna lie, I've had this quilt a little too long in my studio. I saw somebody ask on one of the long arm groups on Facebook the other week about how long people had their lineups. Personally, my lineup is minimum 6 months to 8 months to a year sometimes. And it's kind of dependent on the quilt a little bit. I like to keep these more simple custom quilts kind of like in the background for like in between bigger projects, almost like a palette cleanser. You know, like when you piece a quilt and it's like really difficult and it was a bit of a like real pain in the ass to get done. Like it's nice to have like just an easier project that you can pick up and do. So that's kind of like how I keep these, in my opinion, easier quilts to quilt. Because I quilt a lot of those big like Judy Niemeyer Quiltworks quilts. I quilt a ton of those. And those take a lot of time, patience, planning, just like a lot of mental and a lot of physical too. I mean, they take me and everybody else, I mean, they take us like 40 hours to complete or more sometimes, depending. Oops, I don't need that back. I can kind of eyeball this one instead of measuring it out because it's such a nice, easy curve. It's easy to adjust the ruler to keep that nice and straight. This is kind of a fun design because it's not like so repetitive. I mean, it is repetitive, but you know, I kind of gotta keep my mind on it to remember, you know, which direction certain things are going in. I'm finding that quite a fun little challenge in my brain. And I mean, if you're not having fun doing it, you know, why do too much of it? I mean, sometimes it can be tedious and frustrating, but I would say the majority of the time that I'm quilting, I'm usually having a reasonably good time. I also get to listen to all of the audiobooks and like murder podcasts that I want to. So that's fun too. I'm actually about to finish a book here by Matt Hogue, I think it's called. It's called The Midnight Library. Oh, it's a pretty good book. I would recommend it. It's just interesting. Yeah, I've quite enjoyed it. If anybody has a book recommendation, please drop it in the comments. I am always looking for new books. I like almost all styles of books. I'd say romance is probably my least favorite. And it's only because I've been married for like 20 years and I don't know, it just doesn't appeal to me. So anything but romance. I'm just not a romantic kind of girl. I married him because he fixed my stuff. I'm not gonna lie. He's very good at fixing things, and I really like that. Okay, so that's that side. I'm about to move into the middle here. So I'm gonna break thread here, and this is my start too. And I think what I'm going to do is I'm just going to start in the center and stitch in this star. Now I did think to do this star a little differently, but I think that would be weird. I think it's, oh, I'm going to start here. I'm going to keep the star the same because I'm going to change it up a little bit with the arches. And I think that if I change the star as well, that's just too many elements within a single quilt. I like to have, you know, 2 or 3 different elements. And in this quilt, in my opinion, I've got feathers, the stars, I got circles in another part, and then I guess arches. So I've already got 4 things happening. So I just don't want to add any more elements. You know, I suppose I could have done this star in gold though, hey? Oh well. That's fine, moving on. I'm pretty impressed that the people are still watching me stitch out these stars. Thanks. Thanks for being here. That's fun. Okay, let's go last line and do some arches. Okay, arches. So I'm going to use the same ruler just to keep, you know, the continuity the same. I like to do that too, use the same ruler for stuff. So I'm arching up, and I'm using that like a middle mark here. So I have marked the center. That looks good. I like that. So it's hard to judge with a curved ruler exactly when you're going to land on your mark or not. Just take some practice. And every arch is different, so it can be a little tricky at first. And there's not a ton of tips to tell you. I can tell you, like, stay a 1/4 inch away, but it does look different coming on a curved ruler like this. So it's worth the trial and error so you can actually see what's happening. It's like driving a car. You can explain it as much as you want, but until you get into it, you don't really know. Okay. So here's my thought. I'm going to do an echo because it will match the echoes that I've done on the other sort of arched areas. It's going to be a little tough to see just because the nature of this fabric. But I do have my middle line, but I am only doing a 1/4 inch echo. So I'm like standing like right here, just making sure that my lines are kind of lined. Then now I'm standing here. This is such an awkward angle. Nailed it. Okay, one more awkward angle. I'm happy I don't have to do this 100 times on this quilt. This is annoying. I'm wrestling right now, like whether this is worth the effort. I mean, the fact that I'm having difficulty seeing this in this lighting that's not normal means that we're not really going to see this quilting when the lights are on, which is kind of frustrating, I'm not gonna lie. Yeah, but that's okay. Thankfully, it's only 4 squares. All right, last difficult one anyway. Okay, now this is where I think I'm going to change my mind. So originally I was going to do like a feather sort of motif right here, but I don't think I'm going to, because what I just experienced, it's not worth it. Like, look here, I'll turn these lights on. You cannot see any of the quilting. So why should I go and put all of this effort into trying to build a motif on something that will never be seen? Are we going to see it on the back? Probably, but I still don't think that's worth the effort. So I'm just going to do a feather. I'll make it move the opposite direction of these feathers, just for interest's sakes, and because that's where I'm at. So that's what I'm going to do, just to keep this simple. We've got some awkwardly stretched feathers already. Let's just make more. Yeah, this is smart, way smarter. This is a little frustrating. Oh, it would have been such a pain in the butt if I had tried to like do a motif. Like I was gonna do, you know, the petal shape here and have the feathers coming off it, which would have looked great. Don't get me wrong, but I think this is a good idea. All right, let's see. Just in case like anybody is putting comments down, I've got this running on my computer and I'm really hoping that I'm going to be able to go back and look at the comments, okay? So thank you so much for commenting. I truly appreciate it. It's just hard to watch them both at the same time. Sweet. Okay, so there's the middle. Let's just do a couple stay stitches here. Then I'll break thread and we can take a look at it. Move all these rulers off. Okay. Okay. So here's what it looks like. Yeah, I think that's just dandy. So the feathers are moving this way, and then these ones are moving this way. I mean, it's not like a super like crazy design, but I think the density is pretty good for a bed quilt, and I mean that's what we're going for here. Yeah, I'm pretty happy with that. Okay, here we are. So I'm pretty happy with how this has come together. I'm going to keep quilting, but I'm going to end the live because I've been at it for an hour and 45 minutes, and I'm getting tired. I need to go have a cup of tea. So thanks so much for watching, and I will see you guys another time. Bye.